Hi everybody, it's really exciting to see how much change is happening in the HR tech world. And we look at HR and HR tech from a different angle. So we are just challenging and going after the very last mile of HR, which is the flexible part, which is the hyper-flexible part of work. So let me give you a few numbers to start with, just to let you understand what our challenge is. So we cover shifts around the clock within 4 hours. So Saturday, Sunday, whenever, 4 hours, fill the job, have people on site. The average job size, somewhere around 12 hours to 14 hours compared to 3 months in a traditional recruitment agency. So we have about 350,000 workers on our systems, about 15,000 company accounts on our systems. So we are today the largest on-demand staffing agency in Europe, or I would say in the world. And our aim is to make flexible work easy, fulfilling, and reliable. So why are we doing all of that? There are different angles to look at the same problem. Number one is the workforce, or the people that want to work, have and want a new solution. While all the HR tools, all the views in the market, from insurances to trainings and so on, are mainly focused on a lifestyle which has work in the center of life, and where people try to fit their life around the work schedule, so they try to live at the weekend, in the evening, whenever they have time, there is a growing part of the workforce which would like to be in another model. So where maybe family, maybe hobbies, maybe traveling, whatever, is at the core and is driving their life, and where the job needs to fit their life and not the other way around. So while looking at the two ways of living, the side where work is at the center is pretty much well developed with everything that needs to be done, but at this level we lack a lot of things, like image, like insurances, like a marketplace where you can find jobs, an easy and reliable and quick way to apply for jobs, to be hired, to accrue your pension, and so on. So there is a clear need in the market, and about 10,000 new workers that join our system every month are a clear indication that this is a huge space to look at. On the other hand, we have companies that face more and more a challenging situation where the demand is moving in a higher fluctuation mode. So the more we go into the changes of big trends, we will see big spikes, unpredictable changes in requirements. If you're at the airport, your requirements to the workforce may change from one day to the other, or maybe even from 1 hour to the other, which leads to a completely different mix in your workforce. While before it was okay to have a permanent workforce, plan them a month ahead, no problem, getting more and more into the future, you will need to go more into flexibility. And we even talk now about hyper-flexibility, which is the experience I just mentioned, bringing people on site within a few hours, maybe in some cases within a few minutes, in order to be able to fulfill the requirements of your business. So, as I said at the beginning, Coople is positioning itself in the most challenging part, which means short-term and short notice, filling jobs which are happening maybe today, maybe tomorrow morning, overnight, and which are maybe just a few hours of work. So that means a very low margin, a very peak demand, which is not predictable, and that makes our business model really, really challenging, and will require tons of automation, will require a very lean process to make this happen in a financially viable way. But hopefully, it will offer us as well the opportunity to move into other spaces at a later stage, as we just really cover the last mile of staffing first. Good. How do we do that? So actually, to make this happen, there are 3 main pillars which are really relevant to really make this work. First of all, I mentioned the flexible pool. So you need to have your supply ready to jump in whenever there is a fire happening. So we have a pool of 350,000 workers, which obviously need to be on site. You cannot be on the job within an hour or two if you need to travel 3 hours. So these guys need to be very close. They need to be pre-selected, pre-vetted, ID requirements. Everything is pre-checked for them so that they can jump in. And obviously, you need to have an end-to-end automation in the system, as there will be nobody picking up the phone on Saturday or Sunday evening in order to be able to work the day after. So it needs to be effortless, it needs to be quick, easy, but still, we still need to be able to comply with all the regulations, all the rules, maximum working hours, break times, whatever the countries have to offer. So in these cases, we are the employer, so we are acting as a temporary work, as a staffing agency, and we really need to make sure that everything is working well. But by doing so, we need to consider that the average size of our jobs are at least 30 times smaller than what traditional agencies are doing. So there is a very easy calculation. We need to be 30x more efficient to make this work, and we already proved this in our unit economics. But of course, we believe that we are in an HR world, so that's not just tech. That's not just touchless and anonymous. There needs to be a part which is a touch, which gives them a community, gives them a home, and that's where the services, the human part comes in. But still, we are talking about 350,000 people to offer HR services to, so we need to go the extra mile in order to make this happen and to offer something. Good, so basically the final goal is to allow companies to connect their output with the input, so with the resources they have in a very efficient way, with one click, with a very quick and reliable way. Good. There are tons of use cases I could show here. I don't want to go into too many details. We are working in the most challenging areas like airports, where we managed to improve the margins by 20%, which is just a completely different business. We are working in other areas like retail. If you need to staff 2,000, 2,500 people for just a peak, an inventory that will happen for 3 hours, another major problem to solve where we can help, or just by reducing your staffing efforts and using flexible workforce recruitment in order to bring in your permanent workforce. Well, huge market. I don't think we need to talk a lot about that. And how do our numbers look like? First of all, a massive growth, hyper growth. As you can see here, very healthy growth in all the cohorts. Huge retention. We can see that in the emergency cases, these companies really rely on us. And as I said before, unit economics works in our core market, Switzerland. We are just about to break even, not because we particularly focus on making this happen, but it's just happening because of the efficiency of the whole system. Good. So in order to make this happen, obviously you need a world-class team, which we think we have. People coming from these companies have joined us and are working actively, and we are backed by leading investors in order to make this happen, in order to change the way work is done in this future world. So I'm happy to connect with whoever has the potential or wants to contribute to this revolutionary on-demand staffing method. Here's my email address. Please approach me. Thank you very much.